Alright, hello everybody. I hope you're enjoying your long weekend. I wanted to show you guys two selection tools, is what they call it in Photoshop here, with two different tutorials. So I'm going to go to Applications and open up Photoshop. So we have been working with this crop tool down here, and I'm over here on the left hand side if you can't see my mouse. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4 beneath the Move tool, which is your primary tool. Right beneath the Move tool, though, is what I want to show you here in this tutorial. And this is called the Rectangular Marquee Tool, or the Selection Tool. And if you take a look at the button, there's a little triangle in the bottom right-hand corner. That basically means that if you click and hold it, there are other options that are nested beneath this button. And most of the buttons here on the left-hand side have those triangles, so you can kind of click and hold and see the different options that exist beneath each button. So anyway, back up here, I'm going to go to my rectangular marquee tool, and I am going to go up to File, Photoshop, File, Open, and I'm just going to find this image that's on my desktop to show you this example. And I don't know what year this is from, but this was a Elon softball team winning the SoCon. So with this tool selected, if I just go over here and I click and drag on the image and let go of it, you're going to see that it creates that scrolling dotted line thing that when we did the crop exercise and we selected all and copied our cropped image, this was what showed up around the image when we click Select All. So it's pretty easy to understand what this is, but I am selecting these pixels within the selection marquee. So if I unlock this layer to actually select the image, you have to unlock the layer. So if you look over here in your layers panel, there's a little lock. If you just double click that lock and click OK, you could rename the layer to softball photo or whatever, but you have to double click it to unlock it. Softballo photo, there we go. And now if I just click delete, it just deletes what I've selected. So that essentially is the selection tool, and I'm going to press Command Z, and if you ever select something that you want to, you don't want to select this, so I want to change the selection, if I press Command D for deselect, it goes away. Now Photoshop is a pixel-based editor, so if I zoom in, you can see that it basically breaks down the image into these little pixels. So the selection tool is essentially choosing the pixels that are selected within your selection. I've pressed delete. I can delete different things, and it's working on the very fundamental level of the photograph, which is the pixels. Now you don't have to delete it. If I zoom out by holding Command minus, I can just select like the SoCon image here, and I can hold Command C for copy and Command V for paste. And if I go back to my Move tool over here by clicking V on the keyboard or going over to the left hand side, you could see that it created an additional layer because I pasted what I selected back onto the photo. And Photoshop's intuitive enough that it knows that if you're pasting, it's going to create a new layer automatically for you. So the selection tool, at its very basic function, allows you to select different parts of the image. I'm going to delete this layer now. And you can copy it, you can delete it, and if you go back up here and I click and hold, it also is the elliptical marquee tool, which is the same thing as the rectangular one, except it gives you a circle or an oval depending how you shape it. If I, let me Command deselect that. If I hold down Shift with the rectangle or the elliptical tool, what it's going to do is it's going to create a perfect square or a perfect circle for me. That's what Shift does when you're resizing things in Photoshop, if I hold that down and drag. So let's just say that this image here is what I selected, and you can see that I don't even have to press cut or anything like that. Once it is selected, let me Control Z. Once I make a selection, it automatically isolates those pixels. And when I go back up here to my Move tool, so long as this layer is unlocked and there's a selection, I could just click and drag and that portion of the image is cut away. And that is at the very fundamental level how the selection tool works. So I'm going to press Command D to unselect, Command Z to undo what I just did. And sometimes you have to go back more than one step with the undo. So remember, you sometimes have to hold Command and Option at the same time when you're pressing Command Z to undo, further back than one step. Another way that selection tool works, I'm going to go back to the rectangle marquee tool. Let's say I just draw this little square down here at the bottom. I could actually fill this selection with different content. It isn't just for manipulating the image in terms of tearing it apart. I can actually fill things on the image using the selection tool. So if with this rectangle drawn down here, if I go over here, the very bottom of my toolbar window here, there's the color picker, and I'll just click this black box here, and the default colors on the color picker are black and white. But once you click the foreground color, the front one's called the foreground color, you can just select any color in here, and we'll just go to this blue color, and I'll click OK. And then if I go up to Edit and Fill, and if I use the foreground color, which is that bluish purplish color, and I click OK, it is going to fill my selection with that color. Now this is probably not the way you want to do it. If you notice over here in the layers, it has placed this fill color. I'm going to click Command D to deselect the selection. It has created this fill layer right on top of the photo. It's actually a part of the photo, excuse me. It's not on top of the photo. It is a part of the same layer as that softball photo. That's probably not the best way to do it. So I'm going to press Command Z, and I'm going to hold down Option and go back a few steps. And if I go over here, I'm over on the right hand side here if you can't see my move tool, I'm going to go down within the layers panel and click this, it looks kind of like a piece of paper with the corner folded up, and that allows you to create a new layer. So now with this same selection here at the bottom of the photo, but I'm clicked on this layer 1, excuse me, I'm clicked on layer 1, not the softball photo. I can go back up and click Edit, Fill, Foreground Color, OK. And the reason that is nice, I mean, Command D, excuse me, to deselect it, is now if I click back on my Move tool, I can move this element as it's on top of the photo layer. It's not a part of the photo layer. So I hope that makes sense. It's just, as you add graphics to these images, it's good that you're doing it in a layered format so that they're not a part of the same layer. So that if I wanted to go back later and delete this, or change the color, or change the size of the whole thing, I would be able to do that since it's on a new layer. It's not part of the photo. Now you can fill the selection. I'm gonna mute this layer by clicking the eyeball here, and I'm going to create a new layer. And let me go up to the Elliptical Marquee Tool and just kind of highlight the SOCON graphic here. If I go back up to Edit and Fill, I don't necessarily have to use the foreground color. I can use a pattern, and there's not a bunch of patterns here on this system that I'm working in, but you could fill it with patterns and all sorts of weird things. And I don't know why you would ever do that, but the options are kind of endless in terms of how you can use the selection and fill mode. So that's a very basic introduction into the selection tools, and that's the selection tools at their very basic. All of these tools underneath the Move tool here in the top 3 or 4 buttons have to deal with how you can select elements of your image. So once you understand what the rectangular marquee tool and elliptical marquee tool does to a photo, you'll be able to understand what these buttons underneath the marquee tools do. And those are the lasso tools and the magic wand tool, and those are very important for manipulating photos and creating advertisements and just isolating certain colors in certain parts of a photo. So on the second tutorial I'll go into that, but I just wanted to make sure you guys understood the basics of the selection tool. So if you have any questions with this, let me know, and otherwise continue on to the second tutorial.